Fear and Hunger is an unforgiving RPG dungeon crawler which has you explore and survive the home of angry wiener monsters to find bootleg Griffith from the popular manga series Berserk, while strategically decapitating every limb and third leg you see, trading children for weapons, cutting off your own limbs to avoid dying from tetanus, while simultaneously dealing with the game's patented insanity and starvation mechanics to delve deeper into the dungeon and fight eldritch gods. Legend has it, this 2018 torture simulator was developed by a single mad lad in Finland after his sauna broke down, which caused him to miss Finland's only 2 natural days of summer while repairing it. Angered by this, our Finnish anti-hero vented out his frustration by creating a game depicting the happy life of the average Finnish family household for one of his school projects. His game quietly released to no popularity, except in Russia, where the Russian people related deeply to the happy themes of the game, due to similar living conditions. Some years later, this mistake of God, disguised as a game, grew into a cult classic, and now we have a popular sequel. So, naturally, I'm here to review the first game. Fortunately for you, I'm going to have to censor a lot of things here because this game is not an experience for everyone and I've run out of eye bleach. The plot. In this torture simulation, we play as one of 4 characters with different motivations to dive into God's awful basement and find a man named Lagarde. Kahara, a greedy, opportunistic mercenary who, after some bad romantical decisions at the red light district, decided to make worse financial decisions for his woman and unborn child by venturing into the dungeon of Fear and Hunger to rescue Lagarde for money. Costco from Berserk, a knight previously under bootleg Griffith's orders who's here to rescue him because she loves him, despite him being a completely horrible man. Ragnvalder, or Scandinavian Guts, is here to dive into the dungeon's abyss and get vengeance on bootleg Griffith for murdering his entire family. Yeah, this game is mostly Kentucky Mario's Berserk. Go read the manga or go watch the old show. The writing's great.
Alright, who's gonna jerk me off?
Oh, and there's Enki. Enki is just an insane emo book nerd that ventured into the dungeon for his own edification, because he's rude and resurrects skeletons since he has no friends. Once you've selected your degenerate, you can either name your character whatever name you want and experience a randomized dungeon with its map tiles and items being completely random, or you may name your character Set D to have the same non-randomized map every playthrough. Also, don't be fooled by the difficulty names. These aren't your typical easy, normal, and hard, but rather everyone hates me, everything hates me, everything including me hates me, and dating sim. Because, according to the game creator, the most difficult thing in life is not surviving an evil murder sex dungeon and fighting eldritch gods. It's asking out people to go on a date with you. A terrifying concept for the average Finn who needs to stay at least 3 meters away from others to survive in his natural habitat. Pick your character, select your own tolerance to pain, explore, and die within 2 minutes to the first enemy encounter with dogs. Or explore inside the dungeon and get bum rushed by guards that will decapitate your legs, throw your unconscious body into a flesh pit, where you can crawl on the floor and find an immortal wizard's severed head, laughing and mocking you while he summons a dark god to devour you in 5 turns. Welcome to Fear and Hunger. If this is your first time playing, I recommend picking Darcy or Kahara and selecting every cowardly option that sounds like running away from your problems to unlock the ability to run faster at the start of the game. Because the man we came here for, Lagarde, is actually on a 30-minute timer to rescue him if you want to add him to your party before he's executed in his torture cell. Conveniently, Lagarde is also required for a few endings, which means you're going to have fun learning the dungeon and speedrunning the game simultaneously. Adding to the challenge, the game's wiki is at best incomplete, factually incorrect, and a terrible resource. Because, just like me, at any day, the moderators can rise from their grave to update the wiki and make Kahara look fabulous. So, I took the time to make an actual map of the game that isn't just disjointed tile sets. I've even given a few important web links if you decide to spend $5 on this infernal experience. You're welcome! Anyways, the real reason we want to rescue Lagarde is because he makes the game much easier. We can add him to our party, and he comes with the best attack in the game, Leg Sweep, which allows us to hit and destroy every leg on screen. And I mean every leg. Leg Sweep also destroys all doors instantly because all the doors have been masterfully coded as legs in this game. Gameplay. The game revolves around you exploring the dungeon for resources, and at times, getting into turn-based fights which have you target and strategically dismember limbs that can be as hard as the enemies. Navigating this dungeon is also a gigantic ordeal to go through, because at times, the gigantic ordeal goes through you. I want to explore the dungeon, the enemies want to explore my dungeon. Normally, you'd think we can come to a compromise here. Unfortunately, the well-endowed meat marshmallow Michelin men do not respond well to the dialogue options, and insist on using their girth to forcibly explore my man cave. Bleeding from my butthole is a real debuff in this game, and I don't want to be on the receiving end of the Michelin men's phallic strength. In these recurring circumstances, I recommend circumcision. Revoking the phallic monster's penile privilege using a spear is a wise survival decision in this dungeon. Some players call this engaging combat. I call this fighting against the developer's poorly concealed fetishes. As you delve deeper into the dungeon, you will also be constantly dealing with the game's patented terror and starvation mechanics. Every time you start the game, your character starts with a random phobia that can range from ghosts, animals, or even genitals. Each phobia debuffs your character's stats when fighting against something that triggers their fears, which can be a little problematic at times. This game also has a sanity meter that is conveniently used to cast spells or skills, which have the unwanted side effect of lowering your sanity. Lower your sanity too much and for too long, and your party members may feel unwell enough that they have to stop the dungeon grind and leave your party. Fortunately, you can restore their fractured mind by having your party members interact with vices. Smoking, tobacco, opium, or drinking spirits is a surefire way to relax and become sane again. Yes, the girl we've recruited on our team is going to have some problems growing up now, but that's a price we'll be paying later. Hunger is a bit more extreme than your average survival sim. In this game, hunger has 5 stages. There's a lot to explain about malnutrition, but essentially, as Confucius would say, if you don't eat your vegetables, your punches will hit like noodles. Not eating veggie, your body is not Reggie. One who does not eat eggs loses use of legs. Skip on vitamin C, your eyeballs can no longer see. Don't eat vegetable pie, you go to hell before you die. If you're not blind or stuck in a wheelchair, remember to thank your parents for making you eat your vegetables when you were younger. Anyways, what I'm trying to say here is you'll be constantly dumpster diving for food scraps during your playthrough, unless you've learned the Devour skill, allowing you to eat nearly everything laying on the floor. Given the dire choices between starving and eating a corpse, I think I'll take my chances. Adding salt to our bloody cavity, food and supplies are finite, and are random resources in this game. Meaning, the key to our party's longevity and success is to manage our resources and avoid unnecessary fights, because over time, combat will deplete our resources and increase our chances of obtaining permanent debuffs. Combat is rarely worth earning a bacterial infection requiring us to saw off our own infected limb to stay alive, so pick your fights wisely. However, at times, confrontation will be unavoidable. Every turn, using Bethesda's Fallout VAT system, we attempt to strategically dismember our enemies before they strategically do the same to us. Cut off the enemy's arm holding a cleaver, or he'll do the same to you. Remove all of Granny's limbs. Now she can't rip your face off and wear it as a party mask. At times, you can get creative in combat and throw items from your inventory at the enemies. Or, use diplomacy and talk to your foes. Talk to the God of Knowledge during his boss fight. Now he's asking you lore trivia questions during the fight, and answering correctly gives him a damaging brain aneurysm. Wanna make a new friend? Talk to the good girl and throw rotten meat at her for a new party member. However, things won't always go your way during combat. Being permanently dismembered makes the game much harder than it already is, and brings different disabilities to your team. Losing an arm means our character can't hold a shield or two-handed weapon anymore. Losing both arms means they can't even hold weapons. Losing their legs means they can only crawl for the rest of the game, and losing all 4 of our limbs turns our character into a stuntman, which makes our character unable to move, at which point the game repeatedly gives us the choice of holding our breath and giving up on life. Most debuffs are problematic, but manageable to a certain extent. As example, blindness is not very balanced. Blindness may as well turn off your computer screen, because it makes your game look like this for the remainder of the game. Unless you know how to get fucked in the ass by your team and maybe even develop erectile dysfunction, or by knowing how to barter children with Nigeria for a new set of eyeballs. What did he mean by this? I hope you don't have to find out. Is it hard to lose your eyeballs?
No.
You can easily become blinded from encountering the Crow Mauler, a recurring enemy which you will have to deal with during every playthrough. Because, did I mention, you're also being chased by Pizza Head from Silent Hill 2 in this game. After some slight progress and reaching the mines, Crow Mauler begins stalking you throughout the entire dungeon. Meaning, at any time, you can run into Crow Mauler on every floor of the dungeon. If that sounds bad, don't worry. He's hard to kill and has a high chance of using his beak to peck off one of your party members' heads each turn. I don't think I have to explain what losing your head does here. Later on, Crow Mauler can even evolve into Doduo and peck off heads with twice the efficiency. Unless you want to reset your game or do a blindfolded run, you may want to avoid Crow Mauler. Adding further to this game's challenge, most enemies have a coin flip attack which they occasionally like to pull. Meaning, you decide on heads or tails, and if you lose the coin flip, bad things will happen. Ranging from your party getting sliced into 2 pieces, to getting your limbs broken while one of Kurt Cobain's albums probes your rosebud and rectally disembowels you. If all of this sounds bad, don't worry, you can always find a bed and save your game to try again. That is, if you win the coin flip to save your game. Yes, it's entirely possible to fail at saving your game 5 times in a row and waking up to Crow Mauler besides your bed. An experience that made me lose my head in-game and real life. Exploration is not always safe either. As example, early on, you may walk around the dungeon and discover a toilet. Going to the bathroom is generally a risk-free experience in real life, unless you've recently visited Taco Bell, in which case, God rest your soul. In Fear and Hunger, that's a slightly different story. Upon interacting with it, the game gives you the option to enter the toilet. Your gamer brain, for years, has been conditioned to explore everything for loot now, so instinctively, you decide to crawl inside. Once within the shit pit, you find nothing but fluids and excrement. Defeated and disappointed, you decide to leave. But, despite your best efforts, you just can't quite climb back up the slippery brown way from which you descended. Upon realizing there is no shit pit exit, you'll notice you've unlocked a new skill to leave the trap you're in. Truly, a crappy way to go. Don't let your life turn to waste. Chad, I hear you say. This game sounds disturbingly hard. Don't worry, I know.
But wait! There's more!
Which is why I'm going to give you some advice for this cursed dungeon crawl. Fear and Hunger has no leveling system. Instead, the experience we gain while playing is transferred directly into our brain and given to us, the player. Because the more we are willing to experiment and die, the more we learn about how the game works. And the easier the game becomes. After we've screwed up our first save file by experimenting while learning the game, the grown-up thing to do is acknowledge our failure by deleting our first game and restarting for a better chance at speedrunning to Lagarde, using our newfound knowledge and by turning our shared suffering into a magical experience.
I'm gonna kill myself!
Magic in this game is essential to beating it. The main way to learn magic is at Hexen tables after having earned favor with the gods and after we've harvested the souls of the recently departed inside of shiny rocks. Favor is earned by praying at the right gods at the phallic statues erected for them, or at certain ketchup circles, and even by participating in normal everyday activities such as orgies or group cannibalism, which, upon failing a coin flip, can render you insane and doom you to an eternity of banging or eternally consuming raw human flesh. Family-friendly activities which YouTube won't allow me to show here. Alternatively, you may get lucky and find books containing crafting recipes or spells, or better yet, empty scrolls as you stick your hands into every box and crevice while looting the evil sex dungeon. Using empty scrolls with a quill and the correct word input, O Lord give or O Lord teach, followed by the name of the item you desire, you can directly obtain whatever item or spell you want. Yes, the game has built-in admin commands as part of the mechanics. I recommend wishing for a white angel soul to have a character attack twice per turn, or a black witch soul to poison on hit. Because poison is broken in this game and oh lord give me a way out doesn't work. On the other hand, when it comes to learning spells using our shiny rocks, I recommend learning Blood Portal before anything else, to teleport around the dungeon like you're playing a Castlevania game. After rushing to Lagarde on time and using Blood Portal to escape faster, we can either bring him to the dungeon's exit, where he'll refuse to leave with us because he has unfinished business and give us one of the game's crap endings, or continue the game and possibly get betrayed by him as he ascends to godhood. Personally, if I'm exiting the dungeon without him, I like to saw off all of Lagard's limbs and turn him into a stump man. Because if he can go back to the bottom of the dungeon and defeat 3 gods on his own like this, he deserves his ascension to godhood. But truly, the best way to become overpowered, and I'm using air quotes here, is to meet Isaiah later in the game. Isaiah has a questline we can follow, but we don't want to interact with him. Not because he's cursed with a plague, but because the developers cursed him to live as a walking piñata by giving him good loot. Naturally, we throw away our moral compass and unalive Isaiah for some treasure maps and pick up his mask which prevents blindness. With our immorally obtained treasure maps, we can loot the simple transmutation spell and walk on water spell once we reach the city of Bootleg and Orlando. These spells effectively turn us into Jesus Christ by allowing us to walk on water and using transmutation, which allows our character to duplicate moldy bread to restore the party's hunger, and turn water into wine to restore the party's sanity, which can be abused infinitely at the Salmon Snake boss room. Being overpowered in Fear and Hunger is not destroying our enemies, it's not going hungry or insane. Despite everything, it's still possible to have bad item luck in this game, and you may desperately need helpful items, which is where trading comes in. Yes, despite being stuck in the worst dungeon known to man, this game has a few characters you can trade with using 2 currencies, silver coins and children. However, don't expect that making it rain for personal gain is going to fix all of your problems, because trading works like this. Imagine you're trapped in a giant cat litter box without any arms or eyes, with a hungry tummy. Sometimes, you're not always going to dig and find food, but by exchanging money with a cook, they can help you out by giving you a fork. Anyways, Pocket Pussy is a supernatural being that only accepts children as payment for powerful weapons and rare items. Here's how that works. One day, you're shopping at a Toys R Us with your child. You get to the counter, ready to pay, and the cashier says, "Sorry, we don't accept cash or credit as payment." Your kid turns to you, looks you in the eyes, now fully understanding why the store is named Toys R Us. You look your child in the eyes. Your own eyes begin to tear up, and you know deep in your heart that you really want that copy of the Necronomicon signed by H.P. Lovecraft. You trade the girl and notice that the cashier has a new suggestive animation playing, but you've seen worse by now. So you brush it off. Unable to wait, you open the pages of your new cursed purchase in the hopes of getting the unfathomable, magical knowledge of the gods. A coin flip triggers. You fail and die on the spot. Yes, this game is wrong. I've had this book for a few centuries myself and haven't noticed any differences in my unnatural lifespan. How did I obtain my book? Don't ask me that. In conclusion, Fear and Hunger is not a game for everyone.
Sorry, Link.
You need to be masochistic or somewhere on the autistic spectrum to play it long enough to reach one of its many endings. I won't spoil it further, but the experience is unique and beyond messed up. I didn't think a game would allow me to use necromancy to give the corpse of Jesus a boner, but here we are. It's a dark and challenging horror game, but if you're willing to explore the dungeon, knowing you're going to die a lot and experiment, eventually the game will live rent-free in your head and you'll be changed forever, for better or worse. I rate my experience with the game a bleeding butthole over the number of years the game has removed from my life expectancy. If you want to try the game, it's 9 Canadian rubles on Steam. Feel free to consult the small guide I assembled in the description to answer most of the questions I had while playing it myself, because the game's awful wiki is not always informative. That's it for me today. Subscribe to my small baby channel if you like my garbage. You're all wonderful, and I'll be lurking in the comments. Cheers, and have a good one.